Thank you. Well, I'm Osskari. Gonna be running some Uncharted for you today. I'm joined on commentary by Twan Man.
Hello, I'm Twan Man.
So if you don't know the category, it's a bit of a mouthful. I'll explain it in the first chapter. But we play on continuous speedrun mode, which has an in-game timer. Sounds super useful, but it's really not because it's really bad. And I play on Explorer because it's the easiest one. And yeah, then the time starts on when I skip the first cutscene, so I'll count that down in a bit. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Right, so category, any percent, no airwalk, no launches. So I'll break it down for you. Any percent, just finish the game as fast as possible from a new game. No airwalk. There's a glitch called an airwalk, which was in a. It's used in NG Plus extensively, and then it was found that it was possible in any percent, and it saved a lot of time, and everybody hated doing it. So the no airwalk category was created. And then a couple of years later, people started messing with this glitch called launch or a sky launch or whatever. There's a couple of names for it. And through time, just saved more and more time, and suddenly the run is like really, really difficult, where you reset heavy, and a lot shorter. So that justifies splitting the category. So now we have a subcategory for launches and no launches. So that's that. And this is like, if I were to give this category a better name, it'd be like good old any percent, something like that. But yeah, this chapter is just a knowledge scroller. It takes 2 minutes 12 seconds, 52 milliseconds, as you can see in the top right. And yeah, so I'll give you a little sneak peek here. So yeah, there you go. We're gonna be seeing a lot of that. And our good old friend Sully's gonna save us from this turmoil. Twan, do you want to go into movement?
I will. You gotta give me a minute. It's been like 2 years. I'm trying to remember how all this works. It's been 2 years since I've run the game.
Gotcha.
So, generally speaking, when you're out of combat, you're going to see Osskari doing a lot of jumping. Jumping is going to be moving Nate along a little bit faster than just the natural out of combat walking speed. Okay, good. Part of the reason I was hesitant to talk was because I was worried about the mic issue. Thank you, Rob. Osskari will be doing a little bit of manipulation to ensure that he's in combat as often as possible, because Nate's combat speed is faster than any of the other walking or running speeds I mentioned earlier. You'll also see that he'll be canceling out certain falling animations just by shooting the gun, and also going up steps shooting the gun, because those two animations are a lot slower than if he pulls out the gun and just cancels that animation and goes to like a running or jogging speed from that. So that's sort of the gist of like the very basic. You can see him putting it on display here with the jumping around instead of very slow walking. You'll also see that he rolls into this cutscene here to avoid a very slow walking animation.
Yeah.
This is like trying to find a bride in a brothel.
Oh, gotcha. So, yeah, there's a lot of, the movement is kind of like, it's very simple to get into it, learn it, but there's a lot of like small things I'm trying to do to get the best animations when I'm climbing up to stuff, or random stuff. That's like just like deeply ingrained into my muscle memory.
Well, and like a lot of folks that are familiar with speedrunning know, all the big tricks are nice and beautiful, and they do certainly save time. But once you get to like the level of Osskari or like Rocky here in chat, a lot of the time save begins to come from like optimizing those smaller, less interesting looking movements, so that you're saving seconds and seconds and seconds. You know, each run, each time you're getting a little bit better with your movement.
Oh yeah, I just went through that wall right there. So you're gonna be seeing a lot of this. So the way I think about this in my head is that when you're aiming the gun, your hitbox shifts a bit, and then when you release aim, it shifts back. So you're just kind of like shrinking and then expanding. And the way the collision works is that like if you're it's pretty lenient. It tries not to like do anything too crazy with you, so you can just kind of slowly phase through the wall.
Nate turns into a plasma and just phases through the wall.
Yeah, and it's if you have a PS3 or a PS4, you can just try this. It's pretty fun. That's how I got into speedrunning.
It takes like a moment or two to figure it out, but you pretty quickly can just start to do all these. If you position yourself the way Osskari's positioning himself in these certain walls and doors and whatnot, it's not hard at all to go through those doors.
Yeah. The only thing that's like weird is that you have to mash aim, and like your first intuition would be to like mash aim with your left index, and that completely messes up my wrists. So what I do instead is I reach around the controller with my right middle finger, and I just use my middle finger on my right hand to mash L1. So what you saw right there, I failed the first try, but when you're clipping, you can like floors extend like a little bit past the walls a lot of time, because it's just like good game design just to minimize the like voids and stuff. But so over there's like a pretty tiny floor, so I had to jump pretty much like as I clipped. So we have to like, there's a few places where we have to, it's not just about clipping, it's about clipping and doing something else. Also right there is we're clipping through not only visible walls but also invisible walls, because they're practically the same, just with or without textures and stuff.
Okay, I'm in.
So I clipped through an invisible wall there and hit a checkpoint inside the sub, and just like that we're in the sub.
I forget how hard it is to do like commentary on this run, because like by the time you're done explaining one trick, you're already doing another trick that requires. It's like, remember that time we go all the way around the sub? Well, we don't do that anymore. We just clip to this invisible wall.
Another thing I should mention here is that for some reason, and I'm very thankful, Naughty Dog made it so that if you press triangle in a cutscene, it brings up the skip movie dialogue. So you, instead of like having to time a start press or an options press in case of PS4, you can just mash triangle going into a cutscene and you'll get it like, you know, a first frame pause every time.
Having said what I said, there is a fantastic time for donations later, and we will definitely let you know when that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
There's like a 3.5 minute period where you just have to sit on the back of the truck. Okay, so now the controls in this sub are kind of weird. As the camera shifts around, it's the classic, like, if you played, like, Final Fantasy X, and the camera shifts around, like, the joystick stays the same until you make a movement, and then it snaps to the direction. So I'm not, like, usually not pressing the intuitive direction. Okay, so now we're gonna just run through this temple we just got through earlier, the other way around. And they want us to do a tutorial here, but we're just gonna jump past it.
You You got time for that.
Oh, I'm actually never gonna like the flag that tells the game if you've done the tutorial not for the brutal combo. It persists through the whole game. So if I melee anybody at some point, I lose a bunch of time because it goes into like slow motion and does stuff. That always does that for the first time you do that.
Technically, except for the final boss, but that's a quick time event.
Sure.
It would be funny if it did it during the quick time event.
Oh. The funny thing about these NPCs on Explorer is that they're really predictable because they're so like they're so easy and they're so dumb that they just like those two in that hallway always pick the same two spots to be on pretty much, and these guys up ahead always stay in the same spots. Over here we're gonna see like pretty good example of when I restart checkpoints. So as soon as you kill that last guy, you get a checkpoint and you can restart checkpoint and brings you a bit further into the level. So that's a thing that's like all over the series.
Yeah, until you
in
learn
terms of
to
speedruns.
Yeah, until you learn to run the games, whatever. You don't really realize just how much time that saves and how important it is to know when it is to restart the checkpoint, like the optimal time for that.
Yeah. Okay, this thing is pretty important. I left at least one guy. If you leave at least one guy down there, that's important. They don't do much damage, so you don't have to worry about it. And then I'm just kind of shooting up here. So I left that one guy alive down there, so I can kill these guys, and then fire my AK into the cutscene, and what that does is, as Juan explained earlier, I'm exploiting the game into giving me combat speed into different areas. So normally I'm supposed to be just like jogging here, but because I did that specific thing, like the game doesn't realize that I'm out of combat, or you know, it doesn't change the combat speed. Right. So chapter 4 is pretty notorious for being hard.
Just a casual jaunt through the jungle right now.
Yeah, don't worry about that. So there's gonna be like a pretty long section where I don't get a checkpoint because we're just skipping everything. And then a scary bit at the end where if I die, I go back to the beginning of the chapter.
What is it, shooting that lock at the very beginning? That very first clip you do at the beginning of chapter 4 that's kind of like a flag for all these other things?
That's the backup. If you die, then you can shoot that and trigger the first encounter, but not the rest.
Gotcha.
And we have to be pretty... Well, you have to get through these areas. Like this one is interesting because we can't clip up, but we can do this. And you saw me do this earlier. Is you can roll onto that rock, and I did that on a route in chapter 2, and they kind of hard-coded that ledge up there so that you can't grab it from the ground. But if you just get a little bit more elevation, then it's fine. And you're not supposed to be on there.
Yeah, and if you're familiar with that, I guess we call them set pieces in Uncharted or whatever, but like that little area, there's normally just a bunch of gunfight things that kind of come in waves, and then once a certain wave comes in, one of those pillars breaks in a way that lets you climb up on there and move around and actually get to that area. But getting on that little rock root thing lets you just skip all of that.
Yep. So this is the scary bit.
Yes.
This game's platforming is notorious for being dodgy, and I've been playing this game for so long that I can like mitigate most of it. But this, like, the game can just eat your inputs seemingly randomly, and if you fall in the water you die, but you're through. There's a checkpoint up here. So that's scary bit number 1 done.
Yeah, it's easy to just like do one of those weird little short hops, and then you just don't grab the ledge at that very last ledge and then die, and you just lose like, I don't know, 4 minutes.
Yeah. Am I gonna make this? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do a little trick there. If I'm really fast on the truck and I manage to grab the ledge that I jumped there, as the transitions into the that cutscene, I managed to like reach a checkpoint while that thing was happening, so I can just restart and skip the rest of that animation. Right, you wanna talk about the barrel?
It is one of my favorite clips. I'm trying to remember how it works. Okay, so there's two different ways you can get through here without actually sitting and going through like another long wave of enemies here. Ideally, we're gonna run up to this explosive barrel here up on the left, and then crouch behind it, and then jump over, and it's just gonna like push us through the wall on the other side, and we don't have to worry about this little enclosed area. We can just move on with our lives. Look at that, easy. Sometimes that barrel can explode, and that's not great. There's a backup. There's some crates towards the back of that area that you can also do the exact same thing on. And that saves, I don't know, however long it takes to go through that whole area. Because you have to like fight a wave of people there. Then there's like a scene with the plane, and then like 3 more waves of people. I don't know. It takes forever. We don't want to do that.
Yeah. It's like a minute, probably.
A minute to a speed
there's
run is like
backup.
15 minutes. It's another wave of folks that you kind of have to fight with all these little rope traps on the ground. If you just clip like Osskari did right there, you can kind of run around the side of this little arena. Just run
Camera
through
likes
the
to be
doors.
tricky there sometimes.
Oh yeah, it does. Yep, it can kind of phase you back out if you're not careful. And then there's a castle here.
I swear it's there.
Or a fortress. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
Nate knows it's there. The fortress. Thank you, Uncharted, for telling me what it is. Imagine being confident enough in your like parkouring climbing abilities to climb around the outside of a fortress the way that Nate's climbing right now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is pretty cool over here. So like the combat pretty trivial. The only really thing that can kill us are turrets. So I just shot the guy who goes into the turret. I don't need to kill him, but if you like shoot at a guy and make him stagger, he'll just like his AI script will go off for a bit and he'll remember eventually to get on the turret, but I'm out of there beforehand, so
Easy. So there's another scene there where you like go and see what Elena's backpack or something, and then there's a bunch of scenes, and we don't do any of that. We just go straight here.
yep.
Place could use a good plumber.
You can clip through that big gate.
Son, bitch, where did they all come
Yeah,
from?
this part is funny because there's a trigger once you come through this gate. The game is like, oh, you've already done that, and then I'm gonna clip back through, and then because I clipped through, I can lift this gate. Normally you have to like kill everybody before you can do that.
The flags are like, wait, you're here, so that means you must have done this. Oh, well, now you're back. I guess I'll let you use this. Oh.
Yeah.
So
You
this,
can talk about this.
yeah. So this clip that Osskari is doing right here, he's trying to clip just through this wall and on this very very thin little sliver of platform that's still kind of existing on the other side of the wall to jump over to this crank, so you don't have to jump through the water or swim through the water to grab. There it is to get to the crank. If you go to this one, this is the second one that you would activate. That skips the first one, because normally you'd go to the left side, activate the crank to get the water up high enough to get to that one. Then you'd crank that one and get the water all the way up. But if you just do that and go to the second one, then you skip having to do the first one, and there you go.
Yeah,
As long as you get
like
it.
the one.
Sorry.
That's like the one I did earlier where I jumped, but this one is extremely precise.
Yeah, that one's one that's tough to do. I've only done it a few times. Never in a run. TV at least. Just ignore all that wall stuff we're doing. I have a hard time remembering what we skip when we do this because we skip so much stuff.
Yeah, like all of it. Well, although this chapter is interesting because we can go to the very end much faster, but there's a few checkpoints we need to hit for the end level triggered to load.
This part's the scariest on glitchless, but we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I hate this part on glitchless.
Because
there's a crank there. You can like crank it up anytime, but when you crank it up, the enemies will really aggro on you, and if they shoot you, then you drop it. So sometimes you get it perfectly, and sometimes it's like, nope, you're just not gonna get it today.
And I know setup was like throw a grenade in the back to distract some people just long enough for you to be able to get the crank up or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not the easiest thing to do.
No.
Just got a little bit more running and vaulting to do. And then once we get through this chapter into the next chapter, that's when that great time for donations and talking about the event and the charity will be coming. So not too much longer. We get our nice little pause in the middle of the run.
Yeah. Because it's so intense, this run.
It is.
It's so nice to have like a good 3-minute mental break in the middle to prepare yourself for the end. Because what are we at? 20 minutes, and we're in chapter 6. And if you look at the estimate, then well, and then there's 22 chapters, so that doesn't really compute. So the rest of the run goes pretty fast.
I feel like we both sound pretty calm about this whole deal. It's definitely a very intense run just all the way through. You're just constantly doing something, and then 3 minutes to kind of take a breath, and then it's right back into it. So I guess if you want me to, I can explain what's going to be happening here, and then we can pass it over for any donations or anything. So we're going to be riding in a little Jeep, whatever you call it. Elena's piloting it, and we're in the back shooting a gun. There will be a couple moments where Osskari will be needing to shoot a truck and some wall of rocks, just to ensure that we don't get like an auto death from encountering either of those. But for the most part, we're just sitting there, and on Explore, we can kind of do whatever we want. It doesn't matter. And that is starting now. And if you got any donations to read or want to talk about the event, you are free to do so.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about RAD, or Rise Above the Disorder. They are removing the barriers, much like clipping through the barriers we've been doing this entire run. They are removing the barriers of affordability and access to healthcare. Something like 60% of people in the United States with diagnosed mental health issues don't actually receive treatment for those issues because of issues of affordability and access. And RAD is doing everything they can to eliminate that. So if you believe in a world where everyone should have access to mental health care, please donate today. And you can do that by typing !donate in chat. And if you want any more info about the charity, you can go to yourrad.org. And let's talk a little bit about our awesome hosts here. RGB Esports. Or RBG, sorry. My dyslexia gets this, but RBG Esports, started in 2018, is a rising name in esports world in all forms. We've got Counter-Strike, Hearthstone, and now they've introduced speedrunning. So be sure to check them out. You can join the Discord. Just type !Discord in chat. I gotta say, this is a really interesting run. This is probably one of the games that I've been looking forward to the most. I love the Indiana Jones feel of this series as a whole.
Yeah. And like, if you think this run or this category is broken, it's just like we're restricting 2 huge glitches. That gives you an idea how broken this is. Oh yeah, that truck. Really important to shoot that truck.
One of the 2 important things to fire upon during this. The next one's coming up, this wall of rocks that you kind of have to blow away in order to get past him.
Yeah. But like the wall, I don't know if anyone's died to the wall, but the truck, I'm not really a
rite of
real
passage.
Uncharted runner unless you've died to that truck.
In the most absurd, silliest death. It's like, oh, this vehicle is coming right at you. You just shoot it one time with the I guess with the rocket, not with the, you know, not obviously with the gun, but.
And the damage we're taking on Explorer, I could easily just not do anything, but I like to occupy my brain while I'm in this chapter. Mostly just so I remember the truck.
I like to see what cool ways I can kill people. Like that little swing around right there, I like to try to hit that, just fire the grenade as soon as it stops swinging around to see if I can hit the dudes on the quads, whatever you call it. I guess those aren't quads, those are three-wheel vehicles, but
I love how the like tires and grill bars fly off. And just like, and the body itself just like stops.
This game reminds me of Unearthed. Sorry. I should have said that. Don't listen to me.
So reaching the end, this is the end of this. And now we're back into intensity. As soon as the camera moves, I'm going to restart checkpoint. And then I can shoot, and I'll get combat speed. So the game wants you to fight some dudes here, but I'm not really interested. So I'm going to do this thing. Which looks super scary, and it is when you do it the first, you know, dozen times, but it goes into your muscle memory pretty quick. Okay, you want to talk about jet skis?
Well, see, what I was going to say is what is scary is not this part, but the jet skis in general. This part is pretty straightforward. This is kind of a tutorial for the jet skis anyway, but the big thing to do here is just make sure those explosive barrels get out of the way, and there are a couple instances where the folks with the guns can be problematic. Not really as much on the 80% as with like the glitchless just because of the difficulty difference, but it really is just navigating. Like there's a path you can take right there to ensure that you're not going to get fired on. There's going to be any explosive barrels or anything, and then he does the restart checkpoint there to get a little bit further along, and not to get a little bit further along, but there's a slow movement there that you're passing. You meant to talk about the next part?
Yeah, so I shoot the grenade launcher there at the end so that, again, to get combat speed over here. So this trick wouldn't work if I didn't have combat speed. So
watch this.
Photo mode is a thing in this game. So the way the game loads stuff is kind of based on where the camera is looking, which makes sense. So if I bring the camera into that area, I can load that part, and then before it deloads again, I'm like thoroughly in there, and it decides that I'm allowed to stand on the floor.
It's just such a great thing to know that, if you're a speedrunner and you're thinking about what things in these games can we utilize to go faster. Photo mode. Surely photo mode's not something that's going to make us beat the game quicker. No, it absolutely helps.
Yeah, it's really useful. And this part, I'm skipping a lot of things. So we were in like chapter 8, and now we're in chapter 11. So if I would have fallen off those balconies, I'm so far off where I'm supposed to be that the game just doesn't have a place to restart me to. So if I press like yes on the are you sure you want to restart checkpoint, nothing happens. It just makes the the button press sound and doesn't do anything. Doesn't even close the dialogue.
The game just shrugs. That's basically what happens. It's like, I guess you're done playing Uncharted today.
And that's a soft lock. If you die, it just stays on the death thing forever. But you can save and load, which is slow, but it can save a marathon run. It's a reset in any normal PB attempt.
You also saw Osskari skip through that little round arena at the beginning of that last chapter, just after he exited the soft lock area. That's also a pretty serious area if you're playing casually or even on glitchless if you don't route, if you don't move correctly. But there's a way to get through that room pretty reliably and not soak up enough turret damage or really any turret damage or guns from anyone else to cause you problems. So pretty easy on Explorer. As long as you can clip out quickly.
Here's everyone's favorite chapter.
Oh boy. So this is pretty similar to the other, in that you're on a jet ski at least, but you're going upriver, so the physics, if any of y'all have played Uncharted 1, the physics with the jet ski are pretty, it's driving a jet ski up a river that's going against you pretty hard. That's kind of what it feels like. And there are some barrels that you got to avoid. They pop up in pretty reliable spots, but it's still kind of weird because you're battling the physics too, so it takes some getting used to, even speedrunning it a couple dozen or so times. I know that I definitely would just run over a barrel and be like, well, it doesn't automatically kill you on Explorer, but it certainly scares you.
Well, sometimes it does.
I'm trying to think of instances where it... I know that it can, I'm just trying to remember an instance where it did for me.
Yeah.
Also, he's shooting just kind of randomly with Elena, not aiming at anything, and just kind of hoping that Elena hits those barrels. So...
Yeah. Also, another thing, when I start the chapter, I try to gauge like the RNG on Elena's aiming feels like it's like a set seed every time you play the chapter, and she's like, you get like a bad aiming Elena or a good aiming Elena, and this feels pretty good. So I try to gauge like if I feel like she's aiming real good today, then I'll do a bit riskier things, but.
And it's definitely towards the end here where you're getting a lot more folks shooting at you, and you're trying to just like scoot by them and not eat this. There's a sniper right here that starts shooting at you at about this spot. You want to navigate around these rocks, and depending on how aggressive you want to be, certain routes to get through this.
Yeah, they can just kill you sometimes here. Even though this is Explorer, they can just decide to kill you.
But you had no problem. That's it for the jet skis. We're good.
Okay, now chapter 13 is where things get real wild. I'm gonna flip to this. So,
let's head up to the monastery and see what's
the way
going on.
this last part of the game is structured is kind of like, I like to equate it to Dark Souls. How you kind of like, you pass by the same area multiple times, and then like, you can see like, oh, I was there a couple of chapters ago behind that gate. And but because we can just go through walls, we don't really care. We're just gonna pass through everything. Over here, this is a recent development. We used to clip through that gate that I knocked down, and
I was about to ask about that.
Yeah, there's no enemies and stuff, but turns out we were being too fast. And it's actually faster to kill them, because you get these checkpoints bring you up along like the hill, so you can like kill the guys, restart checkpoint, and it brings you a bit further forward. Okay, I'm gonna need you to talk for this next part.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, me too. Let's just find Sullivan and get the hell out of here.
Don't let him get
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that the chat was talking about the reset timer. We're not worried about it. As speedrunners, we deal with that all the time, so,
I have my splits open, so I can confirm the time later.
Okay, so a lot just happened there. Another photo mode jump. Osskari has to be a little bit more cognizant of like positioning and timing with that jump, because if he waits a little bit too long to do that jump into this next area, Elena can die, and then obviously you got to go back a little bit. All right, so then after a little bit of moving around, he gets here. What is he doing? Just crouching behind this tombstone and wiggling the analog stick and falling down, clipping in here where a puzzle normally takes place.
This feels bad. Yeah.
Come on, you're gonna get it. No. I was quiet. I was hoping that
was the wrong angle.
Me not talking would help. So normally, as someone that's not as good at the puzzle skip as I am, I would just clip into that puzzle room and do the puzzle and then progress into the next chapter. But it is a bit faster to do what Osskari's doing. I don't know if you're going to try it again or not, but
yeah, we're good on time.
Okay, great.
I have like 3.5 minutes to spare. According to my splits.
We'll see this again. So there you go. Very quick to go into photo mode there because Elena would die. Nate,
don't worry about that.
I've never seen Nate's legs do that much. So this is the puzzle skip's going to happen again. Also, don't worry about us clipping through a wall that we can't even see. But the puzzle skip, as you're going to see Osskari try again here, just kind of get into a spot where you can clip into the kind of to the edge of the room where the puzzles take place, and then jump, pause at a certain time to load everything in, and then land on a safe floor, kind of like with that first photo mode jump. And then that skips having to do the puzzle, and you're carrying better speed into the next chapter. Let's see if we can get it.
This feels better. So I stopped like as his arm is. Oh god, the angle is just off. See, I haven't played the game in like that much in a couple of months, and I came back like a couple of days ago. Wow, I have never been this rusty before, and I just like completely lost the muscle memory for this.
Any of y'all speedrunners know, especially when it comes to muscle memory and something like timing, which this is a very timing kind of thing. That like there's certain tricks like just clipping through these walls is pretty straightforward. There are a couple weird walls throughout the course of the run that you kind of have to get used to again. But then there are these weird things that like if you're running a speed run, wow, you really do just go all in on the leg stuff. I feel like I don't ever get the like.
Well, if you're shooting okay, then that happens.
Oh, anyway, but like it's just some of these timing things. If you're even remotely rusty, that it can just feel like you're doing the right thing, but it turns out you're doing the wrong thing, like off by like a couple tenths of a second every time, and it's just like messes it up. Third time it's happening.
Oh, and this clip that I'm doing here, this is called like cover clipping. This is like the old way clipping used to work until the aim clipping was found. And you just like you go into waist high cover, and then you just wiggle your stick. With if you have a long gun out, then it goes faster. But yeah, I think this is it.
Come on now, let's do it. Are you serious?
I don't know how that did work. Okay, well, you get to see the puzzle.
That stinks. Boo. It's all in the game. I blame Naughty Dog. It's not your fault. Naughty Dog makes some fun speed games. Hey French can tell you all about the best one in their opinion, Uncharted 2.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It is probably the best one, even though this one is
this one, especially when it comes to the glitches and stuff. Uncharted 1, in my opinion, is not worth too much because I've only run Uncharted 1, but I feel like it's very beginner friendly in terms of just being able to put together a run that just feels cool. Uncharted 2, on the other hand, scares the crap out of me. A high-end run of Uncharted 2 is amazing and scary at the same time. Just watching it, even as someone that kind of has an idea as to what all's taking place in the run, it's just like it blows my mind, and I'm always like mind blown by the folks that run Uncharted 2.
It's been so long since I did this. I forgot. You have to trigger the chapter 15.
Oh, you didn't touch the door.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Even though with all this stuff, we're still good.
I have a split. I used to have a split when I would run this game called touch door in all caps because I would forget to touch the door, and I was such a noob at this that I always didn't do this puzzle skip. So what happens? For the 5th time as we go through this, we'll do the photo mode jump here.
I'm just completely throwing it.
There's Elena dying, like I mentioned.
Yeah. There's a good example of that. So these are all the ways that this spot can go wrong. This was a pretty good run before this, and you can see like all of the stuff that I'm like throughout the run, especially over here and in chapter 4. I'm doing like a million different things so that things don't like fall apart. any second.
All right, I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do good jump, good commentary here. Here we go. Was that like a first frame pause there?
I don't know.
It seemed like he was jumping. Okay, so now if you touch the door there, then you'll see the chapter 15 trigger on the Trail of the Treasure, and then that is what actually allows you to clip in and do the puzzle. The puzzle. I was about to say the puzzle skip. The puzzle. And then you
You'll
can see
notice that I
part
don't have combat speed.
Oh, and also doesn't have. Yeah, that's the other thing is that like obviously you're skipping the puzzle when you do the puzzle skip, but you also keep the combat speed that you had before you touch the door.
And there's a gate in the next chapter that's like inexplicably just disappeared. Hold on, I need to remember how to do this.
How do you do the puzzle?
I remember how to do it. I just have to like. Because there's another clip you can do into this place that gets you onto the snake thing right away, but there's a chance you can die from it. So I just did the safe one.
They have me questioning how the puzzle works.
This one?
Yeah, I think it is the first one on the right.
It's this one.
I think it's down, right?
Yeah.
It's just
I'm used to doing
down.
it in a different order. So there we go. Oh, but now we get to
the Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts.
As a big fan of the Kingdom Hearts series, this really just moves me every time I see it.
Everyone knows Kingdom Hearts is light.
That was me trying my best to upset Osskari and failing. Equate something else that Nate can do is that I don't know what happened. I feel like it happens the most in this chapter or the next chapter, where sometimes Nate does a weird limbo with the top half of his body. You know what I'm talking about, don't you, Osskari? Like, he does this weird thing where his back just like kind of bends at a 90-degree angle every so often.
Really
I don't know what causes it to happen, but that is also frightening to see.
It happens a lot when you're doing airwalking.
Which way do we go?
Because airwalking, you're like mash aim just really fast, and if you do that, he like sometimes does that.
It's like the top half of his body wants to play. You know, there's a limbo line somewhere, and the bottom half of his body's like, no, we're going somewhere. We're running. So we did some skips. We flipped through that gate instead of doing a long puzzle of doing a bunch of stuff so this drawbridge doesn't come down. But you can vault over this railing, and then I guess there's a spot where you can just like jump on some invisible floor and then just skip that whole area where the drawbridge is.
That animation of vaulting over cover gives you like a floor for a bit. So if you're just smashing X out of that, you can jump.
That's kind of like in Donkey Kong Country when you do the roll and you can jump out of the roll like way off of a platform. I think that's the thing.
Oh, and remember when I said we were good on estimate? I lied because I remember I removed a split. So we're gonna be a minute and a bit overestimated. So
So Osskari has to kill everyone here, because if he tries to progress and he didn't kill everyone in that little area, then Elena, it just shoots to Elena. The camera just skips to Elena and she falls over dead. There's a lot of instances where Elena just dies if we don't do a certain thing. So important that we kill everyone there. Not a waste of time.
yeah, I really didn't want to pick up that grenade launcher, but sometimes it just lands next to the crank.
Something I talked about at the beginning of the game was that there's a lot of, running and shooting while you're going up steps, and this kind of qualifies as steps, so you'll see him like constantly pulling up the gun and shooting there. I have absolutely killed myself back when I would speedrun this game, running up the steps and thinking I was pulling out the handgun to shoot, but I pulled out the grenade launcher and just shot it into the floor below me and just killed myself. Great way to die.
Yep. Okay.
Here's where it gets spooky.
Yeah.
So, during this little scene here, Osskari is going to start aiming, and you'll see the gun in the top left pop back up. We still do this, right?
I don't need to aim, but
Okay.
It's just as soon as the camera points down at me, I can just walk into this hole and die, and it's good.
See, I'm
Looks
I'm
like an
rusty.
old hoist.
Anyway,
or
we're gonna
something.
actually intentionally die here because that speeds things up a little bit, and then we just go right into the next scene where we kill. Surprise! There's monsters.
Yeah, these spawns are set, but I'm a lazy boy, so I don't really want to memorize them.
Memorizing
But
when
what
monsters pop out of a circular set of holes is not Like my brain
Yeah.
is just like, I'm good.
What I do instead is that I just kind of like hang out in one of these spots, and usually this one has like a raised floor, so I can like get up at a consistent spot. And
It's
then
not
I'm
too
just gonna
hard.
react. I know, like, kind of know like where they're coming from, but
It's not too hard to pretty reliably just pop some folks every time they show up. Or Nazi zombies, whatever.
yeah.
Folks is being very lenient with whatever's coming out of this. Sorry, I'm coughing a bunch and I can't laugh. That was a mistake on my part. So yeah, there's 2 rounds of this. What's this dude's name? Eddie?
Hey, Raja.
Eddie Raja. You know, I don't remember. What's the last guy's name? Navarro, right?
Yeah, and then there's Gabriel Roman, the main villain.
Is that the
In
old
quotes.
guy?
Yeah, you never see him because he's only in cutscenes.
Anyway, there's two scenes there. Eddie dies halfway through, and then at this point, you're just waiting for Elena to drop this chain thing for you to climb up. And then there's a little running segment here, and Osskari is going to be just shooting the gun willy-nilly behind him as he's going down. That'll give him a little bit more speed, and you'll see that the zombie, monster, whatevers don't care about Elena at all because they're just running right past her. And we get to the bottom, and we get a massive skip right here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you might be thinking, we're in chapter 18 out of 22, and we're already overestimate.
We're almost done.
Yeah. So now we're in chapter 18, and then come on, all PS4 with your hard drive, chapter 20.
So yeah, that part where we just climbed up is the escape at the end of chapter 19, and normally you would do the really scary stuff where you would, navigate around this U-boat and then do a bunch of stuff inside the U-boat and fight off different little segments of the zombie whatevers. But if you just clip through there at the very beginning of chapter 18 and do a nice little cheeky jump to that ladder that ends chapter 19, then you just skip all of 98% of 18 and all of chapter 19.
Yeah, and we're not done because this is chapter 20, and normally you go into this courtyard, fight like a lot of enemies, and then you go into this cathedral or church and fight a lot of enemies. But we're just gonna kind of leave Sully out there to fend for himself. Normally what we would do back in the day is clip into this altar and trigger like the start of 21.
Back in my day.
Yeah. But what we can do now is that we can clip this back wall and hang off this ledge, drop, and when Nate starts screaming, we pause and let the game load in a bit, and then we hit this cutscene trigger. And this is like halfway through 21. But 21 is the shortest chapter of the game anyway, I think. But it's still like a good 30 seconds.
Yeah, the beginning part is just Sully talking to Nate going down some steps, and that's all you skip right there. Oh, get a little cover there.
Yeah. I hate this part because these guys are always in the way.
Shooting those goobers with the shotgun going up the steps is... Oh. You better not die. Okay.
Okay, the last chapter. Final level. So this is like a boss fight where you like fight a bunch of dudes and shoot Navarro, and then he goes to like retreats to the next spot. But I'm an overestimate, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go to the next phase, and then the next phase, and go straight to the end. So time is coming up in like, I don't know, 25 seconds.
There'll be 2 melee segments with Navarro here, and the last hit on the second melee combo is when time is called.
Because we're an explorer, we can just like jump over this box and hit him before he kills us. On any other category, he kills you, like one-shots you, but this is explorer. Okay, so the next combo is gonna do 3 hits, and the third like hit the uppercut, and that's time, and I'll call it out. And time.
Look at that.
Oh, easy record.
Dang.
I
for,
think
like,
that's a world record, right?
Isn't that faster than
like
any
20
percent?
minutes. Yeah. So
Who needs
yeah,
no
that's
launches, no
Uncharted. So, yeah, it's Uncharted. No, 80% no airwalk, no launches, mouthful. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
It's super easy to get into, and
Oh,
if anyone is interested, then we are super nice. The community, and you can find a link to the Discord on speedrun.com, the page for the game.
Unlike myself, they are very active, and like myself, they are very friendly. A number of them are in the chat right now. Uncharted,
Yeah.
a fun series a fun community, fun series to get involved with.
Thanks for the GGs, by the way. He's our favorite boy, Solly. Yeah, so thanks for commentating, Tuan. And
You know it.
thanks for RBG.
Yeah, save the
I,
world,
I'm always
triumph over
like
evil.
wary if I'm.
Pretty typical.
I always mix up the B and the G, but it's
It's a
RBG
shame we're leaving empty-handed,
for
though.
having me on.
It's my favorite genre of game, RBGs.
You know,
Yeah,
I did manage to save one small thing.
All right, I need to leave.
yeah, you can. That's it for us.
You might miss
See you later.
this.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You two got a funny idea of romantic.
Sully! Wow, you